Hi, and welcome to a Life Soul podcast, where we explore personal growth, high performance, and intentional living. I am Wasim Balani, and I believe life isn't just about getting through the day, it's about becoming fully alive in everything we do. Through my journey, whether in medicine as a heart rhythm cardiologist, cycling and running, or personal development, I have learned that success isn't just about reaching goals, but about who we become along the way. This podcast is here to inspire and challenge you to push your limits, cultivate discipline, and live with purpose. Join me each week as we dive into ideas, reflections, and practical strategies to help you grow into your best self. So let's get started. Hello everyone, and welcome back to a Life Soul podcast. This is the first episode of the year, and it just happened after returning from a deeply fulfilling and spiritual trip. Last week I had the opportunity to travel to Mecca in Saudi Arabia to perform pilgrimage. And right as I entered and saw the Kaaba, I felt a flood of emotions I can't quite put into words. Not loud or overwhelming, but calm, grounding, and deeply settling. And what struck me in that moment wasn't just the place itself, but what it represents. See, for Muslims, the Kaaba is the spiritual center, a symbol of that oneness of God, unity, and shared direction. It's the direction we face in our daily prayers. And it's a place believed to trace back to Prophet Abraham, often described as the father of prophets, and believed to be the first house built for the worship of one God. Standing there, surrounded by people from every background and every corner of the world, all moving around one center, I couldn't help but to reflect on something deeper. I reflected on what it means to be centered, and how often in life we drift away from that center without even realizing it. Because here's what I realized. That experience wasn't powerful just because of where I was. It was also powerful because of what was missing. There was less noise, less distraction, fewer decisions to make. Life didn't suddenly become easy, but it became more clear. And in that clarity, something returned, a sense of balance, presence, and inner steadiness. It felt like coming back to center. And when I say center or being centered, I want to be very clear about what I mean, because this idea can sound a little abstract. See, being centered is a state where you feel grounded and anchored, even when life is busy. It's the ability to find inner calm, balance, and focus in the middle of the chaos. Not because everything around you is perfect, but because something inside you is steady. When you're centered, your mind, your body, and your inner values are aligned. You're present in what you're doing instead of being pulled constantly into the past or anxious about what's next. And most importantly, you act from a place of clarity and intention rather than pure reaction. Being centered doesn't mean you're calm all the times or that stress disappears. Things can still be demanding. But there's difference between stress happening around you and stress running you. When you're centered, you respond instead of react. It feels like having an internal reference point, something you return to when life starts pulling in every direction. And the opposite of that is being off-center, which is when you feel scattered, unbalanced, or pulled into too many directions. You may feel anxious, restless, or disconnected, not necessarily from life, but from yourself and your sense of purpose. When you're off-center, it's hard to stay present. Your thoughts jump from one thing to another. Small issues feel bigger than they should. You are more easily swayed by circumstances, emotions, or other people's reactions. You might still be productive, but you don't feel grounded. And this is important, because being off-center doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It usually means you've drifted away from what anchors you. You've been responding to life instead of living it intentionally. And most of us live like this more often than we realize. I saw this very clearly in myself before I started being intentional about personal growth. I was functioning, productive, doing well on the surface. But when things didn't go my way, I reacted easily. Delays, frustrations, small obstacles, they could tip me off more than they should have. I wasn't acting from clarity or inner balance, I was just reacting. And that's what being off center looks like in real life. I think of it like a car on the road. A car with low center of gravity is stable. Wind, bumps, sharp turns, they don't tip it easily. But when the center of gravity is high, even small forces can make it sway or lose balance. And that's exactly what happens when you're not centered, when you're not anchored deeply. Life's small winds tip you off more easily. A comment, a disagreement, a plan that doesn't go your way, and suddenly you're irritated, tense, or emotionally charged. And that doesn't mean you're weak, it just means your center isn't grounded deeply enough. And when you're centered, problems don't disappear, they just don't knock you over as easily. Now, the reason we drift off center so easily is because modern life rarely gives us a space to pause. We wake up and check our phones, messages, emails, news, notification, then work, responsibilities, and then back to screens again. None of this is bad on its own, but when life becomes purely reactive, when you're always responding and rarely choosing, we slowly move away from ourselves. We slowly drift away from our center and our purpose. We usually don't notice it at first, until one day we feel exhausted, restless, or disconnected, and we can't quite explain why. And that's where recentering becomes very important. Recentering doesn't mean fixing everything or changing your whole life. It doesn't mean escaping from responsibilities. Recentering means returning to what matters, returning to what grounds you, returning to what gives your life direction. It's pausing long enough to ask, what am I oriented toward right now? And is that actually where I want to be headed? Is this where I want my time, energy, and attention to be going to? Because most of the time, when you feel off, it's not because life is broken, it's because our direction drifted. We didn't choose it intentionally, we just got pulled away. Recentering is the moment you stop being pulled and start choosing again. It's the moment you realign your actions with your values, your schedule with your priorities, and your life with what you believe truly matters. See, that pilgrimage reminded me of this in a powerful way. Being in a place where everything was oriented toward one center did not eliminate distractions or responsibilities. They were still there, but they no longer felt like the main thing. What mattered most was clear, and in that clarity, I felt grounded again. Not because life was perfect, but because I was present. It reminded me of something essential. It reminded me what it feels like to live with clarity instead of constant reaction, to have a clear direction instead of scattered attention, to be available, not just busy. And that sense of alignment with deeper purpose, that inner steadiness, is what being centered really feels like. Now, the important thing is that you don't need to travel across the world to experience this. Recentering starts with knowing what your center actually is. What anchors you when life gets loud? What brings you back when life feels scattered? It continues by building small interruptions points into your day, moments where you pause before reacting and reconnect with intention. For some people, that could be a prayer. For others, it's silence, journaling, walking, or time in the nature. The shape might be different, but the purpose is the same. It brings you back to yourself. For me, that center is also spiritual. Being in Mecca, a place rooted in devotion, intention, and orientation toward one God reminded me that alignment matters. It wasn't that God was only present there. It was that I was finally available, fully present, attentive, intentional, and oriented toward what mattered most. And that kind of availability changes how you show up in life. So before we close, I want to remind you and remind myself that life will get loud again. Distractions will return. Responsibilities will pile up. And yes, we will drift because we're human. The goal isn't to stay at the center forever. The goal is to notice sooner when you're drifting, to pause before you react, to return more gently without shame or frustration, and to realign your life with what truly matters. Because being centered isn't a destination you arrive at once, it's a practice. It's a way of showing up. It's showing intention over reaction, clarity over constant noise, direction over distraction. And when you live that way, something changes. You stop being pulled by everything around you. You start moving with purpose again. So as you step back into your day, your work, your family, your responsibilities, ask yourself, what is my center? What am I orienting my life around? And what truly matters right now? And once you're clear on that, once you know your center, your purpose, and what truly matters to you, hold on to it. Let it guide your choices, your reactions, and how you show up each day. So stay centered, stay aligned with your purpose, with what truly matters. Because when life throws a curveball, you remain steady instead of being easily tipped off balance. And remember this as you go forward. Every habit you build, every small decision you make, every time you choose intention over reaction, it all adds up. So keep showing up, keep realigning, and keep returning to center. Because the small steps you take today are shaping the person you become tomorrow. That's it for this episode, my friends. And if you like it, please share it with people around you, because we all grow better when we do it together.